Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Culture is the lifeblood of any society, expressed in the many ways we tell our stories, celebrate and remember the past, entertain ourselves, and imagine the future. Our creative expression helps define who we are and help us see the world through the eyes of others. In addition to its intrinsic value, culture provides important social and economic benefits with improved learning and health, increased tolerance, and opportunities to come together with others. Culture enhances our quality of life and increases overall well being for both individual and communities. As part of the agenda of La Republic in annexing the peoples of the former British Southern Cameroons, taking away their culture, education, and lifestyle in its entirety has been on the list. Some days ago, amongst many schemes by La Republique du Cameroon to achieve this, we brought to you the direct imposition of traditional rights in British Southern Cameroons by the military of La Republique du Cameroon. Will Amazonians allow their culture and heritage be tainted by La Republique's infiltration? What has and will Amazonians do to this effect? We'll find out in the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. To usher us into that, the prime headlines.
Here are the prime headlines. Traders fear epidemic outbreak with huge heap of dirt in Nkwem market. La Republique du Cameroon repeats military gives a death threat to his Amazonia press. The GCE board sanctions victims of examination leakages. Menchum Council of Chief requires Colonial Azil to stay off ESU succession matters. Lack of blood at the Bamenda Regional Hospital as donors honor World Blood Donor Day. Now, this means there are donations to Bamenda Regional Hospital. Well, tonight as well, Tibonage indicts Beer over nonchalant, hypocritical condolence message following the demise of his purported principal challenger, Frundi. We also have African and foreign reports as well. But in sports, Muhammad Ali's grandson Biagio Ali Welsh says boxing icon would have loved MMA. Now let's get the news in detail.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real warhorse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock, 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian stroke African movies, global politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG, and People of Ambazonia's position, the Struggles Weekly Update, with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. Health is wealth, health education, and awareness within the Ambazonian community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation prayer and intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Mba. Our freedom, spiritual awareness, and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Mba and Pastor Commando. Church and politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber history, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe.
The Colonial Republic of Cameroon government is no longer having a grip on the people of Southern Cameroon again, yet they are not honest to themselves by letting the people of Southern Cameroon's Amazonia manage their affairs. After all, it is true that power is never given but taken, or better still, seized. The spirit to us, the occupational agents of La Republic du Cameroon, must be rekindled in all the ends of Amazonia for delays to be minimized. The presence of La Republic du Cameroon surrogates in Amazonia is rather taking things, institutions, and heritage backwards. The traders of the Nkwe market in Bamenda are currently battling debts for selling space. The heap of the dump at the Nkwe market is steadily and surely invading traders selling spaces. Well, on that sad note, we start Undaunted tonight. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, Onyi. Good evening, Ambazonians. Well, these traders who were not willing to surrender any part of their business area to the ever increasing heap of dirt have decided to stand the unpleasant smell and flies from the heaps since they have no alternative business site. It is a health challenge with the risk of an outbreak of associated diseases. What we wonder is, are the La Republic colonial local authorities not aware of this? Amidst all of this, the colonial delegation of public health is as quiet as a graveyard. This is really killing the people of Amazonia slowly. The colonial city council charged with waste management has gone into oblivion. Who finally is supposed to do what is actually implemented within this ongoing war?
Traders of the Nkwe market of Nkwenza local government area in Bamenda have expressed their vulnerability in front of the fast-growing heap of dirt in the market. Talking to Undaunted in a routine survey of the city on Tuesday, June 13th, the traders said they are still alive by the grace of God with the populated air they inhale daily. The air of the Nkwemza local government area, particularly of the Nkwem market area, is populated by the stink from the ever-growing heap of dirt in the market. You have not made it up to 2 months here and you want to throw it off. This is what we endure from The morning when we come through the whole day to the time we are going home in the evening. Our children come and stay with us in this condition. We are alive just by the grace of God. Now, a neighbor to the heap of dirt, a businesswoman lamented.
While responding to the woman's appreciation of God for preserving their lives, is a health practitioner Undaunted caught up with. He said the traders shouldn't be deceived by their present good health to think that all is well and they should continue in such a harsh atmosphere with their children, with some still being very tender. He added that the long term health effect of such an unhealthy relationship between the traders and this heap of dirt with its pungent smell is inevitable. The traders by the heap side have no protection against the unpleasant smell, like the putting on of face masks. Business items are exposed to the ever present flea of flies from the refuge. This puts to question the hygienic condition of the foodstuff that consumers are supposed to get.
Those traders that are far from the heap of dirt are equally having a fair share of this smell, as there is dark and smelling water being released by the dump that runs on the third road across the market to those down. Just like the Queen Market, the Bamenda Food Market is suffering the same as a pile of the heap before the Fish Point Hill stretch has grown until occupying one side of the road. Yet business is still there as usual.
Now, on to this very sensitive topic. The visible fruits of the occupational forces of La Republic in Amazonia make clear the plans of La Republic to the people of southern Cameroon's Amazonia. Amazonian teenagers are experiencing hell at the hands of these thugs. The female foes no longer have rights over their mobile phones, and the Amazonian younger girls are violated sexually and given death threats if they attempt to report these preposterous acts. Now, two girls in the Atlantic zone of Amazonia can no longer move freely due to the fact that a rapist has threatened them. A lot of public terrorists and a rapist military called Eyenge is promising a death sentence if the girls deny being assaulted with other through other means instead of the actual truth, which is him. Well, we wonder what kind of abuse this is, a beaten child and at the same time preventing the child from crying. Does this reflect the job description of a professional force according to the appellation of in-house slaves Atanga and Jipol?
Well, these two Amazonian teenage girls are traumatized by the death threat from The said Ianga, a member of the Colonial Republic to Cameroon armed forces in the Atlantic zone of Amazonia. These two have been victims of sexual harassment from the La Republic to Cameroon Tog. And because he is licensed to carry firearms acquired from taxpayers' money, he makes them know that he can use them on them anytime he chooses. Well, from this video that you have seen, these girls have explained their ordeal in the hands of these Eyangwe and the La Republic du Cameroon military rapists. And I'm sure that the right authorities will do the needful.
Well, after the incident, they threatened the girl not to tell anybody about the ordeal because, as you heard her, she gave the threat details in details. Now, for the second, according to the video, she was under custody. Then these police made her understand that he also could take her life in his words if she doesn't comply.
Well, you can see how emotional they are there. And this is just one of the atrocities that the Colonial La Republic of Cameroon talks deploys to southern Cameroons and how they harass them on a regular basis. Well, it will seem that the General Certificate of Education (GCE) Bird is trying to save his ugly face after the Colonial La Republic to Cameroon's influence on the board as in other Amazonian institutions, or it is that the board has regained sanity. While all the same, the GCE has lost its original purpose of creation. This is an institution whose creation was an outcome of the blood of the Amazonians who fought tooth and nail to have this board created in the first place. Question is, why must there be blood for the colonial La Republic to Cameroon to toe the line? Why should French-oriented La Republic to Cameroon be meddling with their exam?
Now, the Cameroon's General Certificate of Education Board, the board has imposed sanctions on GC examinations officials of GBHS Isangele in the Indian County of the Atlantic Zone of Amazonia. In the aftermath of an examination marked by leakages, a communique signed by Dang Aku Dominic, registrar of the GCE board on June 9, 2023, said Mr. Tabot Elliot Tanka, the chief of center, alongside Osang Mbote, Lawrence Aboko Felix, Nkengfak, Gregory, and Jean Paul and Nguesa Fred were suspended from participating in all GCE board activities of the 2023 examination sessions as from June 9th, Friday, 2023.
The communique equally announced that the suspended chief of the center will be replaced immediately by Mr. Ikuna Mikal Mbando, currently serving as senior discipline master at GTC Aquabakasi. This suspension is currently the very first official reaction from the Cameroon's GCE board following the scandalous leaks of examination questions of the recently ended GCE 2023 season.
Well, onto this very important aspect of any society, culture. It is the lifeblood of indeed any society, expressed in the many ways we tell stories, celebrate, remember the past, entertain ourselves, and imagine the future. Our creative expression helps define who we are and helps us see the world through the eyes of others. In addition to this intrinsic value, culture provides important social and economic benefits, with improved learning and health, increased tolerance, and opportunities to come together with others. Culture enhances our quality of life and increases overall well being for both individuals and communities. Participating in culture can benefit individuals in many different ways, some of which are deeply personal. They are a source of delight and wonder, and can provide emotionally and intellectually moving experiences, whether pleasurable or unsettling, that encourage celebration or contemplation.
Culture is also a means of expressing creativity, forging an individual identity, and enhancing or preserving a community's sense of place. Cultural heritage broadens opportunities for education and lifelong learning, including a better understanding of history. With such, no group of people in the right frame of mind and having that energy will fold their hands when their culture is to be tampered with. It is in this same line that the Menchum under the umbrella name the Menchum Council of Chiefs have said no to an attempt by the colonial senior divisional officer for Menchum to infringe on their culture with regards to the replacement of the font of Eshu. How is it that a colonial SDO or stranger will be initiating the succession process of a fondom? This is unacceptable and not in Ambazonia.
Well, the funds of Menchum under the umbrella name the Menchum Council of Chiefs have issued a statement rubbishing the release of the colonial SDO to the Menchum County. By the statement of the chiefs, they stated that after reviewing the release of the colonial senior divisional officer for Menchum, they strongly condemn the content of such a document. Quote, it violates our sovereignty, our customs, and our traditions by dictating the sacred affairs of our tradition, they said.
The press release of the colonial SDO stated that, and I quote, it is time to move ahead for the development of Esu. He also calls for kingmakers and notables of Esu village for a sense of responsibility to facilitate process of a new chief hitch-free. He therefore invites prospective candidates to the throne of Esu to file in their candidates to his office for arrangements of consultative talks at the Palace of Esu, which he shared.
Now, the fund of the Menchum Council of Chiefs in their state reiterated that in Menchum, royal succession is determined by descent, sex, legitimacy, and bloodline governed solely by tradition and custom, which is very normal and obvious. The message from the funds are clear. The La Republic government authorities have no affair in deciding who the next fund should be.
And in health, the effect of the ongoing war is adversely affecting the blood bank unit of the Bamenda Regional Hospital. It is now, because of insecurity, impossible for the unit to make outdoors campaigns for blood donations. With this challenge, the in-house leave delegate to the Colonial Ministry of Public Health has not tabled his difficulty in meeting the needs of the people of southern Cameroon, especially Bamenda, thereby asking that the root cause of the war be resolved for his department to function properly. So, the surrogates to the President Bia's regime can only sing praises to President Bia and are unable to tell him the truth when things are not going well.
Now, on June 14, 2023, health staff of the blood bank unit of the Bamenda Regional Hospital could barely sit as persons trooped in to perform a philanthropic gesture. Men and women within the 20 to 40 age range, after performing tests, all queued to complete the blood extraction process. Some were coming in for the first time, like Loom and Cyril, who said, "We are coming in for the first time. It is true that there is some fear, but we are doing it for our brothers." The blood bank of the Bamenda Regional Hospital is running below capacity with less than 100 sacks for a 600 unit store. The situation of our blood bank is really not good, and we are unable to satisfy the needs of the population, they said. We have a capacity of 600 units, but due to the crisis, we have not been able to do our outdoor extractions, and now we have less than 100 sacks in stock. Some months we could have a demand for blood of about 250 sacks. How do we handle this, said Dr. Dennis Nsame, the director of the Bamenda Regional Hospital.
Well, the health structure has a blood list of some 250 voluntary donors who have been given blood for about 2 to 20 years. Leonard Fonyu is one of them. In his words, he said, "I have been given blood in the Bamenda Regional Hospital for 9 years. I do that every 3 months, and I must confess I am elated to know that thanks to my free will, many are saved." Another donor, Fru Yang Tangi, draws from his misfortune to become a philanthropist. He says, "I had an accident years back on a football field in Douala. I was lucky to receive 2 blood sacks from 2 different hospitals. Since then, I made it a duty to donate blood."
Well, since the start of the socio-political unrest in Amazonia, and Bamenda in particular, medics say accessing blood has been very challenging. It is very unsafe to visit some communities. Thus, they have reduced their outdoor blood donation campaigns. Now they wait for donors in the hospital or do outreach to safe communities with the ambulance. This is Dr. Dennis Nsame, director of the Bamenda Regional Hospital, lamenting. Now, on World Blood Donor Day 2023, voluntary donors of the Bamenda Regional Hospital were awarded attestation for their participation in saving lives in the crisis-hit region.
Now, moving on, the former American Secretary of State for African Affairs, Ambassador Thibault Nagy, has said in his tweets that Bia's message to Fundi's family was in French, and he thinks that it is a very abnormal and scandalous issue about the octogenarian dictator Paul Bia's condolence message to the late family, in that the message was written in French, whereas their destination was well known. But then, let's digress a bit. Was Frundi, in his most recent political agenda, really a challenger of beer? Well, the authenticity of that claim is a major concern. Beer and Frundi, according to Ambazonians, are friends. Well, even though Frundi initially was at variance with Paul Beer, along the line, they eventually became friends.
Now, some Amazonians believe that Frundi, purportedly being Bia's principal challenger, was a facade. Thinking of it, we wonder, was Frundi in his most recent political agenda, really a challenger of Bia? The authenticity of that claim is yet to be verified. Their political opposition to some Amazonians seem like a pretense, because as you saw at one time in Bamenda, that is about 4 years ago, during the SDF convention, CPDM was represented. So we wonder, is the SDF truly a branch of the CPDM, or is the SDF an opposition? Because the SDF has not exactly done anything to Southern Cameroon's Amazonians recently, as per what would be expected from an originally Southern Cameroon's opposition party. Well, this is the indictment of Thibault Nagy. Why, according to Southern Cameroons, they're just playing games.
Mr. Chairman, morning. How are you? I am happy to meet you today. Mr. Chairman, first of all,
Well, this, according to reports,
Glad
was
that
their
the
first
military
meeting
occasion
in
brought into
2010.
order for us to meet.
But that
It
notwithstanding,
was
one
a
would
nice
expect
meeting
the president here
where
would have done
we
better,
agreed that
because
the
it is
dialogue
an apology for a
started,
so-called
the stalemate is
bilingual country's
broken,
president to be
and
unable to express himself
given
in
the
neat
constraints of
purported
time,
or the language.
we cannot
You
discuss
can
much,
imagine, and you can relate.
but that we've come
Except
together
there is nothing like
and
a
the
bilingual
discussions will
country
continue.
as
Probably you've been
president
hearing of,
succeeded from a
and the one you
failed
met
year
today,
in
because the first time you're meeting
1984.
on a
How
one-to-one
the Southern
basis, officially
Cameroon's
at least,
Ambazonia
what
only
what
seeks
what is
recognition
the impression of
away
him?
from a
Well,
so-called
maybe I could have asked him the
bilingual
question
union
too.
that failed.
That
Now,
if
Now, talking about bilingualism, many critics, including Thibault Nagy, says it is a deliberate attempt to minimize the Southern Cameroonians' culture, citing that in Canada, with their French in the minority, issues concerning the Quebec, the lone French province, are never taken lightly as such. Angry Ambazonians who have been sidelined for over 60 years say there can be no excuse for this, considering that the presidency of the Colonial Republic of Cameroon is equipped with some of the best translators in the country.
Now, Frundi's daughter, Jennifer Ngwe, to whom the message to the family was directly addressed, left Bamenda after secondary school for Britain to continue her education some 20 years ago. And she has been living out there since. It is very likely that she will need a translator to tell her the content of the correspondence from the condolence message from President Biya. This deliberate act to continue undermining Southern Cameroonians in the present day dispensation in La Republic du Cameroon did not fail to attract the attention of Thibault Nage, the former U.S. Undersecretary of State for African Affairs, and be a critic because of the president's very poor handling of the ongoing Amazonian War of Independence. Thibault Nage has been very active in pressing the Biya government to accept a real inclusive dialogue and without preconditions to seek a long lasting solution to the long escalated and most neglected conflict that has taken away over 40,000 lives and counting, displaced hundreds of thousands of people, without mentioning the huge destruction of properties caused over these few years.
Well, below is Tibonage's tweet in its entirety. He says, why could not Cameroon's president's condolence message to Fundi's family be in English? He says, imagine a Canadian prime minister not using French in similar circumstances with a Quebec leader. Bilingual country are, and thus their first meeting was only in 2010. He ended up by saying, shameful. Well, wanted to note that while La Republic du Cameroon operates a presidential system of government, Canada operates a parliamentary system. So in Canada, like in Britain, the prime minister is like the president in France, United States, and maybe Nigeria.
Well, while in Nigeria, according to the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, it reclaimed its status as the continent's top producer of crude oil for last month, 2023. A report by Nigeria's Nairametrics, a business publication, shows that during the month, Nigeria produced 1.184 million barrels of crude oil per day, according to OPEC direct communication statistics. In contrast, Angola, Libya, and Algeria each produced 1.111 million barrels per day, 1.158 million barrels per day, and 962,000 barrels per day, respectively. Now, while this Nigeria has taken its top place back in the oil in Africa, in Ghana, the jewel of West Africa, once again ascended to the pinnacle of Africa's gold industry, reclaiming its coveted position as the continent's top gold producer. After a temporary setback in 2021 due to a sharp decline in output, the nation has staged an extraordinary comeback, surpassing South Africa with its remarkable surge in gold production.
Well, according to Mr. Samuel Abu Jinepor, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, the gold production landscape in Ghana has undergone a significant transformation. The output of large-scale mining companies has witnessed a substantial increase, soaring from 2.2 million ounces in 2012 to an impressive 3.8 million ounces in 2022. In parallel, the small scale sector has also made a remarkable stride, with gold exports soaring from 98,001 ounces to an outstanding 655,656 ounces during the same period. As a result, Ghana's overall gold output surged from 2.82 million ounces in 2021 to an impressive 3.74 million in 2022.
Well, in a press statement released on the 12th, as seen by the Ghanaian Times, the minister attributed this remarkable feat to the government's visionary policies and collaborative programs enacted under the leadership of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. The strategic partnership with the Ghana Chamber of Mines has been instrumental in driving Ghana's resurgence as Africa's leading gold producer. The statement highlighted several key factors that contributed to Ghana's resounding success, notably the revival of the Anglo Gold Ashanti Obuasi mine and the Bibiani mine, thanks to President Akufo-Addo's proactive intervention, played a pivotal role in Ghana's triumphant return. Now, the Anglo Gold Obuasi mine achieved an astonishing 132% increase in gold production in 2022 compared to the previous year, while the Bibiani mine, which had remained dormant for 7 years, contributed over 52,000 ounces to the country's overall gold output.
In a broader context, African countries are taking substantial strides to fortify their gold reserves, positioning themselves advantageously amidst global economic uncertainty. Against the backdrop of persistent geopolitical tensions and concerns over inflation, the allure of gold as a safe haven asserts has intensified. Meanwhile, Business Insider, Africa's recent article reviewed the updated rankings of the top 10 African countries with the largest gold reserves in 2023 based on data from Statista. These rankings shed light on the evolving landscape of gold holdings across the continent as African nations embrace strategic moves to safeguard their economies and navigate the ever changing global economic terrain.
Now, what does this mean for Africa at large? If Africa countries harness their natural resources, boosting their economies, how does this affect the continent at large and maybe even the world at large? Well, as African nations strengthen their gold holding, they position themselves to navigate the ever changing global economic landscape with resilience and fortitude. The enduring allure of gold as a reliable store of value offers stability and confidence to both governments and investors alike as they strive to safeguard their economies against potential shocks.
Well, on the foreign scene on Monday, we told you that Jim Rickards, an economist and the author of Currency Wars, has predicted the unveiling of a new BRICS currency, stating that it could weaken the role of the dollar in global payments and ultimately displace the US dollar. On Tuesday, Pakistan has paid for its first government import of Russian oil in the Chinese yuan. Today, an economist who previously worked at the Bank for International Settlements, has provided insight on the possibility of a BRICS currency coexisting with the US dollar, noting that China is a major trading partner of all BRICS nations. Well, he suggested pegging to the RMB and aligning their bilateral exchange rates would be the first major step.
Now, BRICS currency versus the US dollar. Herbert Pomnish, a senior fellow at Zhejiang University and former senior economist at the Bank for International Settlements, the BIS, discussed the viability of the BRICS currency in an opinion piece published on Tuesday by the official Monetary and Financial Institutions Forum, OMFIF. The economist highlighted that during a meeting last week, foreign ministers from the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, convened alongside ministers from various nations, including Iran, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. The main topic of discussion was the creation of a common BRICS currency, he noted, adding that the officials also discussed BRICS membership expansion. More than 19 countries have reportedly applied to join the economic bloc or have expressed interest in joining.
Well, Punish explained that Russia, Brazil, and China currently utilize their respective currencies for settling bilateral trade payments, but this payment system encounters challenges when imbalances occur, noting that creating a common BRICS currency is not a new idea, he opined. He said it will be a regional initiative rather like the euro. He continued emphasizing In the case of Europe, the process from bilateral settlements to a common currency took close to 50 years. Punish further detailed that China is the main trading partner of all BRICS member nations, but trade between the member countries themselves is relatively limited. China could have China would have to shoulder the burden to keep such a clearing system afloat. Well, he says this means setting up their mechanisms and institutions providing sufficient funds to support a liquidity shortfall and providing a reserve facility to deposit surplus funds. In essence, China has a lot to do. Well, and in sports, champions Manchester City will kick off the Premier League season on Friday, 11 August, as promoted by Burnley, managed by their former captain Vincent Kompany.
Well, in mixed martial arts, Biagio Ali Walsh does not have to stop and think before revealing the best piece of advice his grandfather Muhammad Ali ever gave him. He says it comes instantly, as he says, to stay humble. Well, on sports, we'll have Gabe listen.
Latest world sports. Football. Premier League release. Premier League release fixtures for the 2023-2024 season. Man City away to Burnley. Chelsea hosts Liverpool. Luton at Brighton. Champions Manchester City will kick off the Premier League season on Friday, 11th August, at promoted Burnley, managed by their former captain Vincent Kompany. Luton Town's first top-flight match since 1992 is at Brighton a day later when fellow promoted club Sheffield United hosts Crystal Palace. Mauricio Pochettino's reign as Chelsea manager begins at home to Liverpool on Sunday, 13th August. New Tottenham boss Andrei Postecoglou takes his side to Brentford that day. Manchester United start the season against Wolves at Old Trafford on Monday, 14th August. Manchester United, who are celebrating a treble after winning the Premier League, Champions League, and FA Cup in 2022-2023, are now looking to become the first English team to win 4 successive titles. Pep Guardiola's side have won the Premier League in 5 of the past 6 seasons. Burnley manager Kompany spent 11 years at City, winning 4 league titles. The 2023-2024 Premier League season concludes on Sunday, 19th May 2024. The season's schedule returns to normal, having been affected first by the COVID-19 pandemic and its knock-on impact, and then by last year's World Cup break, and the mid-season break returns, with teams given a clear weekend in January. Luton's return to the top flight completes a remarkable resurgence. In 2013, they opened their season in the Conference Premier, now the National League, with a defeat at Southport. 10 years on, the Hatters, who defeated the Coventry in the Championship playoff final, will welcome Burnley to Kenilworth Road for their first Premier League home game on 19 August. Notable games at Kenilworth Road include Tottenham, 7th October, Liverpool, 4th November, Arsenal, 5th December, Manchester City, 9th December, Chelsea, 30th December, and Manchester United, 17th February. Manchester City finished 2022-2023 5 points ahead of nearest rivals Arsenal, who start next season at home to Nottingham Forest. Mikel Arteta's side will host the first North London derby of the season against Tottenham on 23rd September, with a return fixture on 27th April. Opener at Chelsea follows a request to Premier League to start the season away from home because of ongoing works to expand the Anfield Road stand. Jurgen Klopp's side hosts Bournemouth in their first home match on 19th August. Everton visit Anfield for the first Merseyside derby on 21st October, then host the Reds on 16th March. New Liverpool signing Alexis McAllister returns to Brighton, who have agreed to sign Reds player James Milner on 7th October. The first Manchester derby of the season is at Old Trafford on 28th October, with City hosting United at Etihad Stadium on 2nd March. Mixed martial arts. Muhammad Ali's grandson, Biagio Ali Walsh, says boxing icon would have loved MMA. Biagio Ali Walsh does not have to stop and think before revealing the best piece of advice his grandfather Muhammad Ali ever gave him. It comes instantly. To stay humble, Muhammad Ali was the most confident person in the world. He also probably came across as arrogant at the time. But outside of just drawing people to his fights and selling tickets, he was the most humble, sweetest, nicest person you will ever meet. Ali Walsh tells BBC Sport. Ali Walsh and Nico, who is a professional boxer, are the sons of Ali's daughter, Rashida Ali. Three-time world heavyweight champion Muhammad Ali, who died in 2016, aged 74, was crowned Sports Personality of the Century by the BBC and noted for his pre- and post-fight talk and bold fight predictions just as much as his boxing skills inside the ring. He was also a civil rights campaigner and poet who transcended the bounds of sport, race, and nationality. Despite having a grandfather so beloved by fans and embedded in boxing's folklore, Ali Walsh has opted for a different combat sport, mixed martial arts. The 24-year-old who lives in Las Vegas, Nevada, played American football while growing up but fell out of love with the sport before discovering MMA. I was never really tempted to box, although me and my brother both grew up around boxing our entire lives, said Ali Walsh. My grandfather had a gym in his house in Michigan, and we saw him hit the bag a little bit when we were little kids. When I was done playing football, I didn't really know what to do with my life anymore. Kind of felt I almost didn't have a purpose, he added. My friend at the time was training at MMA gym, Extreme Culture, in Vegas, and he told me to come. I wanted to stay in shape somehow, so I agreed. That's kind of how I chose MMA instead of boxing. It fell into my lap and I was attracted to the idea of multiple martial arts in a fight. Ali Walsh is currently signed to the PFL, but is yet to make his professional debut, holding 3 wins and 1 defeat at amateur level. On Friday, he continues his journey towards turning professional as he faces fellow American Travel Miller at lightweight in Atlanta, Georgia. Rugby Union. Australia fullback Courtney Beale pleads not guilty to 3 charges of sexual assault. Australia Rugby Union International Courtney Beale has pleaded not guilty to sexually assaulting a woman at a Sydney pub last year. Beale has been charged with 1 count of sexual intercourse without consent and 2 counts of sexual touching. The 34-year-old who was arrested in December was suspended from all forms of rugby by Rugby Australia. I'm devastated to be here today. I am not guilty, Beale said after appearing at Sydney's Downing Centre local court. The truth will come out. Fullback Beale, who has played 95 times for his country, returned to Australia last year after a spell with French team Racing 92 to play for New South Wales Waratahs. In January, he was called up to a 44-man Wallabies training squad for the World Cup, which starts on 8 September. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
And with that sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at our major stories.
We brought to you on Undaunted tonight. Traders who fear epidemic outbreak with a huge heap in Nkwen market. We also brought to you the La Republic rapist military giving death threats to Amazonian young girls for praise. The GCE board sanctions victims of examination leakages.
We told you that Mentrum Council of Chiefs has requested Colonial SDO to stay off ESU secession matters. We also told you that the lack of blood at the Bamenda Regional Hospital is causing lots of threats. Tibonage indicts Bier over nonchalant, hypocritical condolence message following the demise of his purported principal challenger Frundi. And in sports, we told you that Muhammad Ali's grandson Biagio Ali Welsh says boxing icon would have loved MMA. And that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing to the news on Church Stories. On behalf of Star Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
I leave you with ABC and the TV images. Good night and God bless you.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian stroke African movies, global politics, ABC Amba news and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG and People of Ambazonia's Position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASC. Health is wealth, health education and awareness within the Ambazonian community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation prayer and intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Amba. Our freedom, spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community